Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Sinead Aherne. Today's top stories. The planning notice for the runway extension at Waterford Airport's been published. There's no change in the number of coronavirus cases in Waterford. A Waterford auctioneer says the property market locally is busier than ever. And in sport, there's 4 Premier League matches taking place tonight. Today marks the 35th anniversary of Ryanair's first scheduled flight out of Ireland. On July 8, 1985, a 15-seater aircraft began a daily service Monday to Friday from Waterford Airport to London Gatwick. Ryanair's first cabin crew recruits had to be less than 5 foot 2 inches tall in order to be able to operate in the tiny cabin of the aircraft. It was hoped at the time that the new route would make the southeast more attractive to business and industry. Ryanair flights from Dublin Airport to Luton began the following year. This 1985 news report is from RTE's archive.
It's a service which has been long sought by Waterford, which sees it bringing new life to the local airport, which had generated disappointingly little traffic. And it's said that the service will also make the southeast more attractive to business and industry, since it brings London to within 1.5 hours of Waterford City. Initially, the service, which is being operated by the newly established airline Ryanair, is aimed at businessmen willing to pay £198 return. The flight gets off the ground in Waterford each morning at 8:30 and back 12 hours later.
Meanwhile, the planning notice for the extension of the runway at Waterford Airport has been published. Waterford Council and Waterford Regional Airport are seeking approval from An Bord Pleanála to extend the runway to 2,287 metres. Sinn Féin councillor Jim Griffin's on the board.
The fact that we've gone to Bord Pleanála for planning permission is another exciting development for Waterford Airport, especially this current week on its anniversary of one of the first flights there. But it's equally alarming that nothing has happened there for quite a few years too, that we haven't secured an airline carrier to bring the airport to where it deserves to be. And we'd be hoping, I suppose, with the new government in place now, that we could secure the funding that was promised to us and ring-fence it to drive on with Waterford Airport.
There's no change in the number of coronavirus cases at University Hospital Waterford. The hospital's treating 2 positive patients. That's according to the HSE's daily operations update. A further 3 patients were awaiting the results of COVID testing last night. There are calls for office workers to wear face masks to stop the spread of coronavirus. A group of scientists have urged the World Health Organization to look at the evidence of airborne transmission of COVID-19. Stephen Murphy has more.
The World Health Organization has been clear up to now. COVID-19 is spread through droplets that come out of your mouth when you sneeze or cough and fall onto surfaces. But a group of more than 200 scientists want them to consider another form of transmission through aerosols, which are produced when you speak or breathe out and hang around in the air for hours. They think the risk of airborne transmission in crowded indoor settings like a pub, restaurant or office is being underestimated by the WHO. Professor John Wenger from UCC is one of the scientists who signed an open letter.
Workers should wear masks in these environments because they are spending many hours in that location. For somebody that is going to the pub or the restaurant for an hour and a half or whatever it is, I think that will be okay as long as distancing is kept up.
The WHO has acknowledged there is growing evidence that COVID-19 can be spread through these tiny particles. Here's spokesperson Margaret Harris.
So the importance of this work is to understand that when you're in a crowded space, when you're in a place that's poorly ventilated, and especially if you can't separate easily, that's when we're all concerned that there's a higher chance of transmission.
WHO officials say the evidence is preliminary and has to be assessed further.
A Waterford auctioneer says the property market locally is busier than ever. The latest report from daft.ie shows the average cost of buying a home in County Waterford decreased by almost 8% in June compared to the same period last year. However, Waterford estate agents say their experience on the ground doesn't reflect that. Patrina Walsh is a senior negotiator with Purcell Properties.
Since we returned to work, agents in Waterford have never been busier. The numbers of viewings are up and sales are up, and I would say a lot of properties are actually achieving in excess of the asking price. We're quite pleasantly surprised by how well the property market is doing.
She used the example of a house they recently sold in Earl's Court in Waterford.
I had 10 parties to view the house the first day, and obviously with social distancing now, I had to push some viewings into the following day, and that property sold in excess of the asking price. So generally I would say property prices are achieving at least the same, if not a bit with it at the moment.
There's calls for a national survey of teachers to be carried out before the start of the new school year. It's following concerns that some teachers with underlying conditions may not be in a position to return to the classroom. Waterford Independent Deputy Matt Shanahan raised the matter with the President of the National Association for Principals and Deputy Principals, Alan Mongie.
Have you as an organisation, any of the organisations, taken a head count of teachers who may potentially have underlying health issues which they might wish to excuse themselves from teaching duty, particularly in the case of any resurgence of COVID?
In terms of post-primary level, at this stage there's been no kind of staff survey. I think that's something that centrally should happen from the Department of Education in relation to ascertaining what the level and what the need is in terms of supporting those teachers that may not be in a position to return to work.
Thousands of jobs could be lost in the private transport sector unless government steps in. That's the warning from the Coach, Tourism and Transport Council, which says 95% of its operators remain shut due to COVID-19. It's written to the Oireachtas COVID Committee outlining the need for a €172 million bailout. Spokesperson Fergal Barton says private operators have been decimated.
We're calling for a compensation package for the coach, tourism and private hire operators in general, which would be up to 32 million. A total cost of 172 million, which would include the scheduled services operator, and they're currently in discussions with the NTA about getting commercial operations back up and running again. And we're hoping that will be expedited and that those operators will be back in the road as soon as possible.
There's been an increase in students looking to study engineering and health courses at third level. The final figures for CAO applications show a drop in demand for arts courses, though, as Eamon Torsney reports.
Those looking to study at third level in the new academic year had until July 1st to finally decide on the course they wanted to attend. That was the last date applicants could change their minds. Figures from the CAO show that in total 71,322 applications were made for degree-level courses. There's been an increase of 6% in the number of those looking to study engineering this year compared to last year, and a 7% increase in demand for architecture courses. Demand for arts, however, is down 7%, while there's a significant drop of 14% in languages as a first preference. In specialist areas, there is a strong demand for dentistry, up 17%, veterinary medicine, up 16%, and physiotherapy. Primary education is unchanged, while there's an increase in demand for second-level teaching courses.
The Taoiseach has said the former Debenhams workers have been treated very badly and the company should honour previously agreed redundancy commitments. Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou MacDonald has said nothing's been done to protect the workers by Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil over the past 4 years. Micheál Martin's promised legislation will be brought forward to change laws that allow companies to use devices to avoid paying their workers their entitlements. Sinn Féin's Mary Lou MacDonald clashed with Taoiseach Micheál Martin on the issue in the Dáil.
You may be new to the office of Taoiseach, but you are not new to government. In fact, you supported the last administration for 4 long and very difficult years in which they did precisely zilch, nothing.
We're in government 1 week. That's the reality. But that's the great political untruth and mantra that you and your party have been peddling for quite some time.
And a Hollywood star has created a stir by promising to visit a village in County Waterford in a video message for the graduation ceremony of 6th class pupils at Ballymacarbery National School. Actor Mark Wahlberg vowed to pay them a visit. Students were delighted to hear from the star, who said he'd come to see them, accompanied by LA-based priest Father Colm O'Ryan, an uncle of school principal Michael J. O'Ryan.
I heard from your headmaster, Mr. O'Ryan, that you're a lovely bunch but missed out on all your final term and all the nice things like confirmation, graduation mass, and many other things your teacher Claire and Michael had planned. Undoubtedly, you will always remember your final year at Ballymacarbery National School. Look forward to meeting you all in person. I'm coming with Father O'Ryan. I don't know exactly when or how I'll get there, but I'm going to make my way there. God bless you guys. Congrats.
Sports News on WLR.
With Virgin Media Waterford. Want super fast broadband today? Drop into Virgin Media George's Street and take it home with you. Easy as that.
Starting with soccer, Republic of Ireland manager Stephen Kenny has said that Wolves right back Matt Doherty and Sheffield United defender John Egan have been underutilised by Ireland. The Premier League duo have less than 20 caps between them and fewer won in competitive matches. Kenny has told OTB Sports he rates both players very highly.
We have the situation where Matt is 28 and John Egan 28 now. John's only played twice for Ireland and or 3 times, 2.5 matches.
Yeah.
And Matt's played 3 competitive games for Ireland, and yet they've been playing at the top end of the Premier League, and very, very
good players. So they've been very underutilised by Ireland, and we're waiting late in their careers to appreciate them. I rate the two of them very highly.
There's 4 Premier League matches taking place tonight. Man City host Newcastle, Wolves are at Sheffield United and West Ham host Burnley. Those games are at 6, while at 8:15 Liverpool are away to Brighton. And in racing, the first race at Ballysdown's just underway. There's an 8-race card at the County Meath Racecourse. At Gorham Park in Kilkenny, there's a 7-race card that gets underway at 4:25. Sports news on WLR is thanks to Virgin Media Waterford.